Greetings, listeners, and welcome to The Spiritual Experience, a show where we share stories of life, love, and redemption for all of humanity on Earth. So sit back and enjoy. Try to identify with the speakers and not compare. Don't forget to subscribe on all podcast platforms. I'm your host, Jay Lewis, and here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Spiritual Experience. All right. However you are, wherever you are, hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are dodging bullets, staying happy, doing your thing, whatever it is that you want to do on this earth. You know, I'm one day away from my 43rd birthday. Stick around. I made it. Either way. So today, very special guest, somebody that I've known a very long time. You know, since I got sober, I moved into Brooklyn. He's part of my crew of people that hold me accountable, people that I admire, and people who walk the walk. So everybody say hello to Roberto L.
Hello, hello.
All right. So, Roberto, where are you from?
Well, first let me start off by saying, and not in a perfunctory way, or obligatory, that I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Not only that, I really appreciate you. Known you for about 19 years now, and I've seen, you know, you in good and you in bad, and you strive, as they like to say, you know, rise above and all that stuff.
Right.
And I really appreciate you as a human being.
Thank you.
And I love you as a brother, man. And I don't say that about too many other people, and I'm really happy that I'm at a point in my life now that I can, in public, and I've said this in public, look at you and say, I love you, and I mean it, you know, and that wasn't the person that I was a long time ago. So anyway, to answer your question, Brooklyn, Manhattan, born and raised between the two, Park Slope. Back when, you know, before Brooklyn was a bike lane, as I've heard said, when it was a bit rougher and tougher. Now the neighborhood of Park Slope is a very gentrified neighborhood where you might get injured by a nanny pushing a stroller on 7th Avenue or something like that. But back in the day, it was rough and tough. And you know, my family always had an apartment in Manhattan, and that's where I live now, and I grew up between the two places.
Right. So where did you spend most of your time, like as like a little kid running around the neighborhood? Like Park Slope, you know, 7th Avenue near 11th Street. You know, that was I went to school in Park Slope. What was that like back then?
It was a lot of fun. I got to say, it was still a neighborhood. It was even more diverse than it is now.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah, people talk about diversity in places where it tends to be less diverse. Before gentrification, there were all kinds of people all over the place, you know, and living in Brooklyn, you know, and it just wasn't monochrome like it seems to be going. But
like now, like diversity means different kinds of white people.
Correct. You know, I often, so part of my job is I deal with people who just moved to the city, and they ask me, what was it like growing up here? It's so wonderful, you know, the park is right there, and you've got all these activities. It's a very kid-based neighborhood now.
Right.
And I'm like, 30 years ago, you wouldn't walk down this block in the middle of a summer afternoon because there was nothing but welfare families, everybody hanging out. Like, you know, burnt out cars, burnt out buildings, people throwing rocks. You would turn around and walk away.
Right.
And they're like, no, it couldn't be. I'm like, okay. I remember seeing, on 7th Avenue and 11th Street, I remember seeing the 69ers rumble in the middle of the day with another biker gang. 69ers were a local chapter of whatever, but they were, you know, a leather-wearing motorcycle gang with motorcycles.
Yeah, people think that stuff is just movies.
Oh, no. And in the middle of the day, throwing garbage cans at each other, like freaking chains, the whole deal. You know,
so wild.
It was wild. It was a little wild.
But I think also that if that's what you know, then that's just what you know.
Yeah, man.
So only as an adult you look back and be like, wow, that was fucking crazy.
And in a way, you know, I'm very happy that things change and that you can walk down the block now with a little bit more safety and security. Although, in the past couple of years, it's like everywhere else, especially in New York, things are just weird. Things are crazy.
Right. But yeah, you have spidey sense. But it was like a neighborhood.
Yeah,
back
it really
then.
was.
Even with all the dysfunction,
Really, really was.
It was a neighborhood. You go to school, all the kids are playing together and whatever. Mm-hmm. So what kind of business, what did your dad do? Because you were raised with your dad, right?
I was raised by a single father from Cuba. My father came from Cuba in 1957.
Right. And so his dad is like the OG single dad. Like, I know that's like the thing now. Like, yeah, I'm raising my kid, but his dad probably got like a teardrop. He was the first one.
Yeah, to the point where that's actually verifiable. My father. So the story of my my birth and when I was born, there was a lot going on between my mother and father. So I was born in 1967. So it was a lot of craziness going on at that time, and I'm multicultural. My father's Afro-Cuban. He was a black man from Cuba,
right?
And my mother, who's still around, is whiter than white. They don't make white people more white than her. I don't.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't really phrase that grammatically correct, but she's white.
Right.
She's a white lady, and there was a lot of confusion. I later find out because I didn't know this growing up, but my father had to go to court. My mother put me up for adoption after I was born, and I was actually in an adoption agency, a very, very good one, very well known one, Spence Chapin. On the
sounds fancy.
It is very fancy. It's one of the best ones in New York. I think still to this day. It's on the Upper East Side. And my father went to court and was the first father in New York State that was awarded custody of what they called then an illegitimate child because they weren't married. So there were no father's rights. There was that didn't exist.
Yeah.
So whatever, man. That had a lot to do with my. I think my upbringing and a lot of my psychology, as Freud would say, a lot of abandonment and this and that and the other thing, and a lot has been uncovered in years of therapy and stuff like that, which is I'm a proponent of.
Right, but so you have, it's actually very commendable, because he could have just walked away.
Yep.
And he didn't, and it's hard not to admire that. And that doesn't mean that it comes with a full meal of a sandwich, a Coke, and a pickle, and everything's going to be perfect.
No.
But it's like, as a human trying to be a good human, that's something that needs to be applauded. Because even then, he could have been like, listen, he could have been, I'm going to tell my tale of woe that my kid is somewhere lost in the system because but you know what I'm saying? But he was like, no, this is my responsibility.
I really appreciate what my dad did. He's passed now many years, but I often think of a line from Hamlet, which really sums it up for me. Is like Hamlet gets asked about his father, Hamlet. It says, "He was a man for all in all. Take him for all in all. I shall not look upon his life like again." So he was just a dude, but I'll never find another dude like that.
Right. So, was your dad like a drinker?
My dad was a heavy drinker. He was a bar guy.
Okay.
He was from Cuba, so he played ball.
Nice.
Baseball, and he played softball, and he was on. I remember being on the sidelines while in different city parks while he would play for the Max's Kansas City. This is where he met my father. My mother. He played for the Max's Kansas City softball team. He played for the bar. There was a really well-known bar at the St. Adrian Hotel in the Village.
Right.
He played for them. He played for another village bar called One University Place, which is right off of Washington Square. So he was like the Cedar Bar. He hung out there and he played, and there was a team that played there. So that kind of little network, or that, shall we say, that league of, they all got together and played ball. There was a lot of people back in the day that liked to play softball. And my father's a big guy. And
yeah?
You're
not a little guy.
He had a heavy bat.
Wow.
I remember there's a park, 2nd Avenue and like 21st Street by the police academy, and I saw him hit a softball. He crushed, and I was a little kid, but he crushed this thing, and it went and broke a window across the street, across 2nd Avenue. Yeah, he murdered this ball. And later on, my cousin, who was older and also kind of raised by my father, said, "Oh yeah, I'm Roberto Jr. Roberto Sr. Oh yeah, he'd show up with a loaded bat." So yeah, man, he wasn't beyond that, but he loved to play. He loved to play sports.
We all live in the gray area.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So it sounds like magic. When did what was it like now just being in home with him? I mean, was he a strict guy? Was school the most important thing, or
school was important? I was really, I got issues. Like
no,
I got issues. I got issues with the way I was raised and some of the things, some of the messages that I got, which I know now are just the best messages that he could give me at the time. You know, there was definitely a lot of he wanted me to be an extension of him as opposed to go live your own life kind of deal.
Right.
And I'm not crying about it. I think it's just what happened, and I'm cool with it. He's just a dude trying to
in the 70s.
Dude in the 70s raising by himself, raising a kid, still trying to be a dude, still trying. My father was a ladies' man. He never married.
Right.
So it was tough, but he was a disciplinarian.
Right.
It was kind of like a barracks life, in a very fun way, but also I attribute it to I'm not big into astrology, but he was a Scorpio,
right,
and very fatalistic, like typical, he would cut off the hand to spike the finger. One time, I don't know, I was about 15 or 16, and I after school I came home and I locked the door in my room, and he tried to come in. He's like, "Why is this door locked?" And I said, "Well, I want some privacy, so you better respect my privacy." The very next day I got back from school, the door had been removed. The frame of the door had been ripped out. There was nothing but studs and broken plaster, and he cut the door in half and put it right next to it, and it was like that for 6 months.
Nice.
He says, "You want privacy? Okay, there you go." So, what can I tell you? Nowadays that might be abusive in some circles. I don't know, but I survived.
But I think also, again, he's from another country.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And people don't understand that.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That they don't, when I talk about my mom, my mom didn't have electricity till she was 8 years old. Like literally did not have it in my life, in her lifetime.
My father came in 57, like he was 17 years old by himself.
Right.
He had a brother that was already here playing baseball in the Cleveland organization, but they weren't close, So my father's really literally the story of the immigrant coming with a few dollars in a pocket and a suitcase that was literally tied with rope.
Right.
So.
Yeah, now you don't want to drive without Waze, but that's the lineage we come from. So as you're going through school, whatever, when do you start dabbling in the street, drugs and alcohol? How does that get introduced to your life?
It's a very weird thing. I never really wanted to escape myself with those particular kinds of drugs, alcohol. I never really had the calling for that. My first that now that quote unquote aware, and I'm looking back on my life, I had what a lot of people in certain fellowships call like the isms. I had this. I was different than everybody. Not only was I different than everybody in the way that I was multicultural.
Yeah, DNA.
DNA, all this stuff, social economic class, blah blah blah, and I got that from my family origin. It's us versus them is a message that I got from my father, because it was for him. It was us versus them. He had to struggle. But
at that time, that was right.
Right. But I also had, looking back now, I know that I had that self-centeredness and that fear on the inside. I'm not like anybody here, and I can't reach out to the rest of the universe. I can't say hello. I'm a very shy kid, and please don't pick me, because I know you don't want to pick me. So I don't even want to be in the spotlight. So I was very, very withdrawn. And my avenues of escape, and it's funny because it's so common. Like, my answer for that kind of fear was isolation. So I would be the quiet guy in school. I would be the guy who would come home and I'd just get in my closet and read comic books and fantasize and be in my own head a lot.
Right, like escape.
Yeah, it's another form of escape. Yeah, and it's a form of addiction, or it's sowing the seeds for some kind of addiction.
Right.
You know, and then my father was a lifelong bar drinker, bar goer, and he got the opportunity to open up a bar in Park Slope. He bought a building with the bar and got the license, and it was a monkey can't sell bananas, as they say. It was not a good fit for him. Although I don't believe he was an alcoholic, you know, I do believe that it just wasn't what he thought it was going to be like, and he was a little too close to the fire. But I'm in the bar. I don't know. We had it open for a couple of years, and I'm sitting there.
Where was the bar?
7th Avenue, 11th Street. It was called Labrador Saloon. Before that, it was Radigan's. It was an old-time bar. I mean, a lot of places in Park Slope.
I heard the neighborhood was full of bars.
Yeah.
There in like Windsor Terrace, like Angus used to say, dude, there was a bar in every corner.
Bar in every corner, and American flag flying.
Right, and not like fiction. Oh, there's a bar in every corner. No,
like literally
legit.
Was. Yeah,
like yeah.
And it was part of, you know, the ethnic makeup of the neighborhood was different then. There's a lot more, you know, Irish and Irish descendants, and a lot of stevedores that were working in South Brooklyn, you know, and there was a bar, Labrador Saloon, and I'm sitting there, and I can still remember the glass that's on, the glass of Coca-Cola that I had, and the barmaid that walked by, that we were employing, that my father was employing, walked by, and I was about 16, and she had a bottle of Fleischmann's whiskey, and she poured that Fleischmann's whiskey, a nice healthy shot. And I was like, all right, why not, you know, and I drank that whiskey, man, and I felt it. I can still remember it, you know.
Magic.
I have a closer visceral sense memory of that drink and that alcohol hitting me than I do of my first sexual experience.
Right.
So it's closer to me than sex.
Right.
And that's a thing, you know. That's saying something. And a lot of that pain / fear / tumult that was going on in my head kind of just went away for a little while. That's it. Just went away. I wasn't, you know, off to the races after that, although, you know, the next time I got drunk, it was at the bar, and I drank a half a bottle of Southern Comfort because, you know.
Everybody goes SoCo in the first inning.
I didn't know, bro. I thought, this is nice and sweet. This is nice and sweet. Yeah, let's go. Ba, 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 ba.
It's like the ultimate like devil, because it like lures you in like, oh my God, this tastes like candy. Yeah, and next thing you know, you're like sick, crazy because you drank a whole.
If there was a bottle of Goldschwager there, I don't know. I might have just had one and said never again. But, you know, it was good enough, and I kept going. And then I woke up with my first consequences. I woke up in my bed, covered in my own puke.
Nice. With
my father looking over me, very disappointed. And you know, like I said, I wasn't off to the races, but a start had been made.
But you got your jersey.
Yeah, I got my jersey, you know. I had taken the first step in a long journey.
Right.
You know, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with but a single step. Well, that was my step.
And then you were in high school at the time,
yeah,
and whatever. Okay.
And
where were you going to school?
Brooklyn Tech.
Nice. See, above average, smart kid.
Yes, I'm the basic smart guy, underachiever. That's always been my thing. So,
yeah, he could be so much.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's got so much potential.
Now, was it other kids like in school that were also hanging tough like you, or was it people in the neighborhood, or were you flying solo?
I was flying solo. You know, in high school they called me Smiley because once again I never smiled, walked around and never smiled, but I was also kind of like introverted. I never scowl. I just was like, you know, always had my head. Remember back in the day when there was a Walkman? I had a Walkman, and I had my headphones in, you know, with the wire, not like Bluetooth. And I walked around, and I was always between classes. I was walking around, and you know, I got that nickname. People say I'm smiling. You never smile, whatever. But inside, I was always like longing to be part of. You know, I didn't want to be on the outside. I wanted to be on the inside. I didn't know how. And there was a part of me that I know now didn't really feel worthy enough to be on the inside. Like, I'm not worthy enough to be loved. So how can I be with you? And I was,
So what happened next?
So that's a very good question. What happened next? I had what I hear people talking about, like the normal progression of either drinking career. Let's stick with the drinking career. So I was kind of a lonely kid, not a lot of friends, and I made some friends senior year that were of the Chinese race, and I started hanging down in Chinatown in New York City.
So much fun.
So much fun, and it provided me with everything that I did not have at the time, which was fellowship,
right?
Community.
They accepted you.
They accepted me, and it also was something completely different.
Where did you meet those kids?
In Brooklyn Tech.
Oh, Brooklyn Tech.
You'd be surprised.
Oh, it was Chinese back then too.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many Asians are smart and getting into smart schools,
so
bro.
Funny. Yeah,
no. And I got to say that a lot of them, a whole bunch of them are still my very good friends today. So
right.
I'm very lucky. I haven't really moved anywhere in my life. So my friends from 35 years ago are still my friends today. I still text and call them and hang out with them today.
It's incredible.
And you've met some of them.
Yeah,
right?
no, they're gentlemen.
They're
I like them.
But
they're a little wild. But
yeah, and it also provided me with the other side of life that I was always wanting to see. It was still the gang culture in Chinatown, and lucky that I didn't find any like bad kids. I found tough kids that were in a bad environment that banded together, but they weren't bad kids. So
right.
So like we don't have a lot of well, strike that. There's one guy that just got out of the pen for doing bank robbery, but most of the guys, are just solid dudes, and we
just as a side note, like I honestly don't really consider bank robbery like a real crime.
Fair enough.
Unless you listen, if you smack the lady with the gun, then that's bad. But if you're just like with the note or
he did the note thing.
Yeah, or even if you hold the gun to okay,
he got 2 years.
Yeah, right, okay, no problem.
But
no offense to anybody, I'm sorry, but like
okay.
It's different than like
I really appreciate your support of the criminal community, and
they're your friends. I get it.
Thing. But so it was a bunch of good guys and blue collar guys, and some guys went to college and became this, that, the other thing. Some guys became cops, and like I said, we still get together, we still do things, and I'm proud to call them my friends. But there was definitely the criminal element going on in the neighborhood at the time, so I got to see, freaking gangland shootings. I mean, from half a block away, I saw the shootings, and we had to fight every now and then because we get jumped, and it was still that kind of, we're talking about the late '80s in New York City. It was still kind of dirty old New York, and it was before the Giuliani administration. So,
definitely.
So like
these were the Dinkin years.
Yeah, the Dinkin years when there was no such thing as a quality of life crime.
Right.
So you could be out there. Kind of like it is now, but whatever.
Right, and you guys are getting drunk all the time. What's the story?
We were getting drunk on the corner of Moscow Street and Mulberry, right by Columbus Park. There's a funeral parlor right on the corner. Moscow Street is a 1-block little street. It's on a hill, at the bottom of the hill, and there was some beautiful steps right there, and we just hang out at the hill. Saturday morning, Saturday at 2:00 in the morning, you'd come by. And you'd see 20, 30 people, guys and girls, hanging out with cases of beer. And that was us. And we were just like, that was our village green.
It was still fun.
It was still fun. And if you walked the wrong way on a Friday night, you'd run into this other gang over there, and they'd fight, whatever, that kind of thing. We go to parties. But I learned an appreciation for drinking. It became more and more a part of my life. My life kind of kept evolving, and my drinking life kept evolving to the point where let me backtrack a little bit, and not to take up too much time, but
we have plenty. Go ahead.
I motherfucker. The first bar I ever went into that I remember is Jack's Park Slope Tavern, which was on the corner of 7th Avenue and 9th Street, right? Now it's a Starbucks. If anybody goes by the F train, it's over there.
Right.
And I can remember very clearly playing. It had sawdust on the floor, so I'd play tic-tac-toe in the sawdust, and it was an old man's Irish drinking bar. They had the little pony glasses of beer with the little stem, for like 25 cents or whatever, 15 cents. Kind of like the way Farrell's used to be. And I remember very clearly being in there and seeing the way men were communicating with men, verbally and non-verbally, right? And there's like the posturing and the bullshitting and the telling of tall tales, and the trying to outdo each other with their stories.
At the time, when you're in those spaces, you don't even know that it's like fiction.
Right.
You just know, like, oh, this is.
And my father was a bar drinker, so that's what my image of what a man should be was like sitting there with a beer in his hand, Hey, later on, I had a girlfriend who said to me, Roberto, I'll always know if you're in a bar. And I said, what do you mean? I said, well, if you're in a bar, all I have to do is listen, and you'll be like the center of attention. You'll be laughing really loud or arguing really loud or something like that. But you always, so I kind of got that from that, that bar life and how to get along and what a man should do, in air quotes. And so that was the information that was plugged into me or that I took, right? And then later on, I found my own little Jack Spark Slope Tavern, which was the Abbey Tavern in Manhattan, which there's a bar there at the same spot with the same name right now, but it's not the same. It's gone through several iterations of ownership. But it was the first place where I kind of, I would work, and I'd come home, and I'd go to the bar.
What kind of work were you doing?
I was doing construction. I was doing a lot of construction back then. And, drinking man's, just drinking, drinking the working man's pay. What's that? There's a line from a Billy Joel song or something like that.
I'm sure. Where's that bar?
26th Street and 3rd Avenue.
Right, okay.
Right? And that whole strip of 3rd Avenue and East Side has a lot of Irish bars, as many places do. But there's a whole bunch there. And that was the first place that, I really kind of...
Felt like home, like a home group?
Felt like home. It felt like home. That was it. And it really got solidified. I had one of these I have arrived moments. Is the first place that anybody ever called the bar for me.
Yeah. And
this is before cell phones. And like the phone rings and, hey, Roberto, are you here? And I'm like, yes, yes, I am. Yeah, somebody's called the bar for me. Wow, Little did I know, or now I look at it as kind of, there's some sadness attached to that. Like, you want to find Roberto, he's at the bar.
Yeah,
but that's now. Back then, right. I had arrived.
Sure.
And it was a progression of drinking. It was just a progression of drinking. It didn't seem like I was going over the edge, but in retrospect, drinking was taking more of a center seat. Ambition was taking less and less of any kind of importance in my life.
Were you going to school? Did you go to college?
Yeah, I went to Pratt Institute. I went to a couple of programs at Pratt Institute. I didn't graduate. I went to the architecture program, and I was kind of
drinking and making money.
Yeah, and I was drinking. I was making money. I was like, not. It's like I wasn't. I didn't drink my way out of it, but I can clearly remember hanging out behind the library with a couple of buddies drinking tall boys before classes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So to make that jump from one to the other, I couldn't make it then. I can make it now. And yeah, that's kind of the way I went. I also I met some people in Brooklyn that still are really good friends of mine. During college, I was working delivering pet food at a really good place owned by a couple of good guys. And so one time we used to go to Yankee games, right? So summertime Yankee game, we go to midweek games. We'd have a mini plan, so they'd pick me up, go, yeah, all right, cool. Even after I stopped working for them, they'd pick me up. And then at one Yankee game, somebody happened to have, we had a mini plant, like 12 guys, so plumbers, cops, whatever, construction workers, these guys. And somebody passed along a little silver bullet thingy with a little valve thing. And I'm like, what's that? And it turned out to be some, what they call perico, cocaine. And I took a little hit. My first little hit of cocaine was at
Yankee
Stadium.
Oh, man.
Boy, let me tell you.
You had arrived again?
Wow, double wow. I was on fire that night. And we were drinking. And it was, we were loud and we were obnoxious. And I loved it. I friggin' loved it. We were the kind of guys that people would look at and say, wow, those guys are obnoxious. I wish they would leave. And we'd revel in that. But I got the taste for that. I got the taste for the other stuff. And so eventually, and I'm just, shooting through, I'm not
sure.
And you can stop me whenever you want to stop me.
No
but
way.
Eventually, I decided to get some of that stuff myself because I was living with the girl, beautiful girl, and who actually had done more drugs than I did, but she doesn't have the issue, as far as I know.
Right.
Didn't have it then, doesn't have it now, and I got some of that powdery substance, as we say, and I did it over a weekend, and it was one of those, me and her, and it was debauchery. It was lots of I recognized right away that if you put something into my system, it activates this other thing that I might euphemistically call it my Latin imperious urge, because I'm a passionate Latin. No, I just sex just became, it just took over my train of thought.
Sure.
So that's my issue. It's like a trifecta: alcohol, booze, and sex. So we had done it over the course of a weekend, and she woke up on Monday. We woke up on Monday, and I remember she'd come out of the shower, and she looked at me, and she said, she put her hand over her heart and said, I don't like the way that made my heart feel. I don't want to do that again. And I can remember looking at her eyes, kind of through my own eyes, and thinking, oh no, I'm doing this again. And I proceeded to do this again in secret for as many times as I possibly could, and it led to a lot of promiscuity, a lot of craziness. That relationship ended pretty much because, I started getting crazy. I was hanging out all the time. I was doing grimy things with grimy people, ladies of evening, and stuff. I wasn't really
It's all on the table.
It's all on the table, man.
Once you take that bump, there's no limit.
Yeah, my inhibitions were gone, and I can look back at it now and accept it, and I'm not proud of it, but it definitely, that was it.
Yeah, how old were you when this was going on?
I was about 24.
Right.
So that went on for, maybe 23. That went on for 3 years. We were together 4 years. And at that time, my father, and when I was 26, I was 24. And then my father passed away when I was 26, and that kind of catapulted me into having to be my own person.
Yeah, how did your life change when that happened? That's a very pivotal thing.
I wasn't really thinking about the future or anything. I was living hand to mouth.
And you were already in addiction.
Unknowingly, yeah. Unknowingly. It wasn't full blown, but it was I was still managing.
You had a nice habit.
Not a nice habit, man, and there was no happiness. And, there was misery, and I was just.
How did you get through your dad's passing? In those
that was
moments?
really tough. That was really tough. My using didn't get worse, but the pain inside got a lot worse, and my using didn't catch up with that type of. I wasn't able to anesthetize all that pain. I didn't try to, but I a lot of people do. I went internal, so I kind of pushed more people away. That relationship ended, and all of a sudden I thought I'm this person. I have to be a person now. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to run this. I'm going to try this property management business. I'm going to keep doing that, and then. But I really didn't have a clear focus. at that point in my life, and I don't use this as I'm not a victim. I don't blame anybody, but I could really have used a mentor, really, really. But I wasn't, like the student wasn't ready. The student, was not ready, so the mentor did not appear.
Right,
but I wish back then I did.
Right, but also there's no mentors in the fucking alley.
There's no
Right. So like you're not even.
That's right.
If you think about it, like okay, so you start like you're this kid who flashlight in the closet with freaking the comic books to yourself. You want your privacy or whatever. A little bit at a time, this stuff drips into your life. Then all of a sudden, people can call you at a bar and know that you're at a bar from outside the bar. You're like all the way awake. And then this thing starts to, and then addiction takes a hold of you, and your dad passes away, and then you turn back, but now you're not in a closet with fucking magazines. Now you're in a closet with your drugs and your pain and your secrets and all of that stuff, and you can't get out.
And a source of income and whatever, and like adulation that people look at.
Nobody's coming to cut the door in half.
Nope. And
how long did that last?
People are saying to you, like, wow, you've got to be really strong. It's good for you that you're able to push through this. But, what they didn't realize is that I really, really felt alone.
Right.
I felt alone at the depths of my soul. And let me just give you a couple of sentences on what happened. So my mother and father got together, and they had a thing, and it didn't work. But my father was from the old country, right? And for whatever reason, he's not here to defend himself, and I don't blame him now. But he raised me with the knowledge that my mother died in childbirth, which that was his thing. He had a lot of anger towards my mother, and that was it. But I always knew something was not right with that story.
Maybe for him, he's like, she's dead to me, so I'm going to make her dead to you.
Exactly. Like those.
I know. My mom's
like
from
those
Puerto
Sicilian,
Rico. I know.
Yeah, like those Sicilian women that always wear black, those widows that wear black for 20 years after. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely like vendetta would be big in my father's lexicon. That's one of the words he'd be using. So I was really alone. I was an orphan, right, for a bunch of years. And without direction, without guidance, without, looking back, I just didn't, I knew I had a soul. I just wasn't in touch with it. Right.
What about your friends? They're close? They're knocking on your door?
They're close and knocking on my door, and they're watching me slowly go down the tubes. They giving you a nudge? My guys were hard drinking guys. And, for a bunch of like my Chinese friends, people, we'd go out to other places. We'd go to Vegas or something for parties and bachelor parties and vacations and stuff. And the Occidentals, the non-Asians would look and see the way we were drinking, and they'd be like, oh my God, I never saw an Asian guy that could drink half a bottle of Johnny Walker Black and ask for more. We would, we were hard drinking guys.
And talk with a New York accent.
Yeah.
And be a tough motherfucker.
And not take any shit.
Right.
Definitely not take any shit. You said the wrong thing. You came out with some, you said ching chong around us, and I would be one of the first ones to throw a punch. Yeah. But, so the guys, and there was drugs in the scene, but they watched me being like the guy who closed down the bar and then went to the after hours. They were the ones who called me up and said, hey, you okay? We haven't heard from you in a couple of days or 4 days. They watched me, and I remember this very clearly. I'm in Columbus Park in Chinatown late at night. Like maybe we were drinking, we had a bar there, and I'm out and I'm doing a little bump of Coke, and the bag falls onto, and we're doing it in the playground. Really sad for me to say now, but it fell onto a little piece of concrete, a little concrete retaining wall. I wasn't gonna let that go to waste. So I got down on one knee and like tried to snort up what I could snort. And when you look up and your boys are looking at you like, oh shit, did you just do that? So that was me. So, people were talking, and, I was just slow decline, like the Roman Empire, slowly declining. And all through this time, I had relationships, and there were girls and hostages and good people, very, very good people, because, I hear that these things are really common amongst people that have this addiction, that we're really, really smart, and that we are very good at finding people that will help sustain us. And I think that's true. And the term hostages is some, emotional hostages. And that's something that I was always good at, finding, women who really cared about me, really loved me, right? But I just didn't have the capacity to love them back. I could front it, and I believed my own bullshit. I really did believe my own bullshit. Like, I was there for you. Like, even to my friend, I'm there for you, man. I didn't have the capacity to be there because I was so lost in my own world, I wanted to be a stand-up guy. I could tell you I was a stand-up guy. I could pretend to be, but I wasn't. I couldn't even be there for myself, So
How does this all come to an end?
Yeah. How's it coming to an end? Well, it actually comes to a beginning. Thank you very much. And the beginning or the end, I was in a lot of...
The beginning and the end is the same moment.
Funny how that happens. You realize these things afterwards because you think it's over. You think you can't get any lower, and you think the next thing is just turning off the lights. And that's where I was. I was at a point of suicidal ideation. Let me again backtrack. Sorry for doing all this stuff. So my father dies at I was 26. I found him dead in his bed, which is really not anything, but it happened. And
it's not nothing.
Yeah, it's not nothing, but it's a thing.
Yeah.
And then, so when I was about 10 years, maybe 8 years, so I was about 33, and I get a call, and it's this woman asking for Roberto L. And I said, yes, that would be me. How can I help you? And she said to me, well, I would be your birth mother. And I was like, what? And I dropped the phone, literally dropped the phone. It slipped out of my hand, I like to say. And I listened to her, and I hung up I got her information, I hung up the phone. I proceeded to finish the half a bottle of scotch that was behind my desk that I had for, just have to have it. And found out that, when my mother and father broke up, she had decided to go her own way. And I found out the story that had happened. So now, and it's very common for people or for families who are non-nuclear, who have separation around the time that the child is, I think, 20s to 30s is when a lot of reconnection happens for different reasons. There's statistical reasons, like the
universe.
The universe, or like the parent, the biological parent says, okay, well, I'm not going to I can't mess with the child's development anymore because it's not like, my son's a teenager.
Roberto's not 10.
Yeah, I'm not 10. I'm not a teenager. He's kind of got his own life. Maybe now's the time, and maybe I'm getting a little older, and maybe it's time to reconnect before I die, that kind of thing. So, if you Google that, you'll find all the reasons why and the statistics. But so I went and met my mother in Boston, and I also hired a private investigator to uncover the facts, and the facts checked out. And I met my mother, and I knew, right? And then, once again, I didn't have mentorship. I didn't have any real design for living. I didn't have a design for relationships. Very important. I couldn't have a relationship. So all of a sudden, this woman comes into my life, and with two half sisters of mine, right? She was married twice, had 2 kids. They always knew about me. I didn't know about them. They would, when they were in their teenage years, they'd get somebody's car and have them stake out one of my addresses to see if they could see me back in the day. They actually knew people that I knew, which was weird. So I meet my mother and my sisters, and I want to have a family. And it's funny, if we're talking about alcohol and addiction, the first night I met my sisters, we all went to dinner, sent mother home to the hotel here or wherever she was staying. And my sisters and I went out to Joe's Pub, and we started drinking. And my youngest sister, Emily, said to me, if you're really my brother, then you can drink. And I bet I can drink you under the table. And that's a mistake to challenge me at that point. And I remember lining up, it was Jack Daniels. And I really don't like Jack Daniels, but it was Jack Daniels. 3 shots, and I just bang, bang, bang. And she did bang and started to gag, and I was like, don't ever mess with me again. And I have a picture. The reason I bring this up is because I have a picture of that first night, and the look on my face is one of like, I was ossified. My eyes were different sizes, my pupils were all like, and we're out in public, and it was a good night. But that was, addiction and the problems with substances run in that side of my family. And I'm not calling out anybody. I'm just saying there is a history, right?
You're one of them.
Right, I'm one of them. And I didn't have boundaries. This is very important. I didn't know anything about relationships. I didn't know how to have a relationship. I didn't know how to have a family because my family was not nuclear to begin with. It was just me and my father. And then that was over for years. And then here comes this thing. So I tried to immerse myself into a world that really I shouldn't have. I didn't have boundaries. I was just helping out every way I could and trying to be like there for everybody. And my expectation was that I could just, pour a little water into the mix, stir it up, and have an instant family. And it doesn't work like that. And I had got a lot of resentments. I had expectations, which are premeditated resentments. And there was friction. There's still a lot of friction. And even to this day, there's some friction, and it's okay. But I've learned to accept that. But the fault really lied with me because I just needed to hold on to something. I needed mama. I needed something. I didn't, because I still wasn't good with myself.
Right.
I didn't have a sense of self. So anyway, how did it all end was the question. And the question I was at a point in my life where I was drinking and drugging on a regular basis, telling myself that this is going to be the last time, and then finding myself doing it again. It's a typical story, like you hear in a lot of people that do this stuff. And I had suicidal ideation. I was thinking about it. I was planning it. I wasn't, I had teenage angst when I was like 16 and wanted to put a gun to my head, but that was like cry for help. Like, you don't understand me. You'll be sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Yeah, but this was different. This was like, I don't know what to do. I can't. This pain is not going away when I do a line of cocaine. It's not going away when I drink this famous grouse blended scotch that I really used to like, and I don't know what to do, and once I drink, I can't, once I take a drink, I can't stop, and I'm not going to drink tonight, I'm not going to drink tonight, and I'm looking at, and my apartment looks over Irish bar across the street, and there's all Irish bars, and I'm not going to drink tonight, and I'd find myself at the bar. Literally, I remember that night, like, holy smokes, with the glass in hand. Like, it was just like, ding, like you just, like you edited the film, and it was a really choppy edit, and all of a sudden, there I am. I'm like, holy smokes. And of course, right after I took that drink, I went down, I can still see it now, I walked down the bar to where the bathrooms are, to the pay phone, and I dropped the quarter, and I made the call for the package and the girl, and and 4 days later, I come out of it. And
a warm body does not soothe a cold spirit.
Ooh, I like that.
Somebody told me that.
That's absolutely true. And let me tell you, they weren't all warm bodies.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just, run after run after run, and misery, and pain, and
Groundhog's Day.
Everything that, everything that all the writers talk about, and like all the writers of the 60s, like Hemingway talked about it, and like the grandeur of drinking. That was all in my mind, but the reality, you know, the Bukowski would talk about it, and like I had times which I thought were like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas of just abject craziness, but the reality was just pain, misery, separation from everybody, and just sinking further and further to the point where it's a beautiful summer afternoon in maybe 2003, beautiful summer afternoon, and I'm in my apartment, and I've been chain smoking Marlboro Lights for I don't know how long, and I've been watching porn and doing blow and drinking whatever I could, and like, you know, I can't deal with the outside world, so I start eating my own garbage because I don't want to get deliveries and shit like that. You know, I don't want anybody. I can't even face the delivery boy. You know, and I look out I remember it was a beautiful afternoon. I look out the window. I moved the Venetian blinds down a little bit, like I'm peeking out. And I'm on the 4th floor, like no one's looking. And I see people just walking, going about their lives. And I said, man, I just want to be like you. I just want to be like those people, you know? And that really, really got me at that moment. It was telling. And there were times when it just wasn't working anymore. It didn't, it just, the bottle let me down, like the country song says. Last night, the bottle let me down, and I just couldn't get drunk, couldn't get high, couldn't take the pain away, you know? And it was like diminishing returns.
Betrayal.
And I was dating a girl off and on for a bunch of years, and she's a very smart girl, very, very smart girl, PhD in clinical psychology, tough girl, salt of the earth kind of girl from a different country. And I had blown her off for a dinner because I was busy getting my swerve on. You know, I was busy on the grind. I was hanging out for days, drugging, just pain, just a lot of pain and insanity and powerlessness. And I finally cleaned myself up. I was still strung out. You know, that was really the worst, being strung out, you know. For me, my hangovers are bad, but those moments of like, I'm not high, but I'm not sober, and I can't really function, and I just have to lie here on this couch for a
and
day.
You're all clammy and shit.
Oh, fucking
skin is gray.
Fucking nastiness. And so I blew her off, and then I called her up, and I said, okay, I'll come overnight. And you've heard me tell this story, and it's very important to me. But I remember I parked the car and she lived in Brooklyn Heights. And on the way, I'm walking to the door. She buzzed me in, and I'm practicing the lines in my head. Like, you know, like a rapper would say, I'm getting ready to spit my game. You know, I'm like Eminem on the bus, just writing down ciphers. I'm like, yo, baby, you don't understand. It's hard being me. Give me some pity. Love me for who I am. Yada, yada, yada. Let's go to dinner. Let's go fuck. Whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Just, come on. I just, in essence, what I was doing is trying to protect my disease. Right?
Yep.
And I never forget, she opened the door. Lovely black hair, tall. And she said to me, what the fuck? Straight up. That was because she was a tough girl from a different country. A tough country. And I sat down on her couch, and I was ready. Man. I was going to lie. You know, things have been getting kind of hard, and I don't really know if I've been dealing with them right. So I just, all that shit went out the window. I never got a word out. I sat down on that couch, and for some fucking reason, I looked at her, and I said, I need help. And I'm choked up even saying it now, because at that moment, everything in my fucking life changed. Everything changed. I don't know. I can't define it. Intellectually, I can't define it. I can't empirically define it, but I can tell you that my belief is that I had a moment of grace, sometimes referred to as a spiritual experience. Call it what you will, but something had changed. And I exhaled, like I don't ever remember exhaling before or since. And I'm a scuba diver, and I've done breath holds and stuff like that, and I've tried to go free dive and all that. Nothing has ever been that kind of cleansing and restorative breath as that one breath. And I had no idea what it meant. I didn't know anything about recovery, but at that moment, I feel I came into recovery. And I was separated, what they call separated from alcohol. That was the last time I had a drink. I mean, I didn't have a drink after that, so I'm really not sure when the date of my last drink is, but I picked one, and that's close enough. And man, it started me on a journey. You know, she was so helpful. She was like I said, in the mental health community. She hooked me up with a rehab. I was in a rehab. I went to Chinatown and had a reverse intervention. I brought a bunch of my friends and said, I'm going to rehab. I've been all fucked up. And they were like, yeah, we know. We know. Okay, great. Now let's go get something to eat. That's literally what they said.
Good for them.
And we'll be here when you're done.
Yeah.
And I got into a rehab in upstate New York, and it was miserable. It was a bargain basement. Like, the owner of the rehab, I later heard a couple of years later, got indicted on embezzlement, tax fraud charges, or whatever. It was all kind of crazy. But I learned about the disease of addiction.
And so you got sober.
I got sober. I got a little sober. And really what I attribute the most important thing, I really learned for the first time that I wasn't alone. Because there were other men, especially the men, but there were women there too. There were other men who started to talk about doing the same things that I had done and feeling the same way that I had felt. And I was blown away. I never forget the first time I heard one of the counselors lead a group, and he's talking about his own. It wasn't a group. Like AA and NA and different fellowships would come in and have meetings, but this one night nobody came. So he just, had
the counselor took the chair.
He just took the chair and started
Nice.
talking. And I was mesmerized. I was like, you too? You felt that? You did that thing? I was like, oh my God, like my whole paradigm had changed. And I learned, and it was hard, and I didn't know anything about anything, but I kind of accepted that because I had always been driven on egos. Like, I don't know anything, but I'm not going to let you know that. I'm going to be up in your face before you can say anything,
Right.
Kind of like.
You're going to be the guy in the bar.
Bravado, right? And then they said a very important thing to me. I heard somebody quote a statistic, and I don't know if it's true or not, but they said 75% of people that don't go to some kind of fellowship meeting within 24 hours of leaving a rehab will relapse. And I didn't want to relapse. I mean, I really didn't want to relapse.
How long were you up there?
I was up there 27 days. I don't know. I was like, they came to.
It's real when you know the exact number of
27
days.
days because I knew it was a 28-day program. And I said, my buddy can pick me up today. It was a Sunday. Or no, it was a Wednesday. He can't pick me up tomorrow. Is it okay if I go down? And they're like, yeah, okay. Roberto, you can go. And they set me up with continuing care and stuff like that. And they gave me information into the various fellowships. And there is one that I'm a member of. And I find a lot of strength and solace in that group. But I don't like to name it or really claim myself as a member to the outside world as part of what I perceive as what we do. Other people have different perceptions on that, and that's fine. But
were you questioning whether or not you were going to go to a meeting?
Oh, absolutely.
On the way out?
Oh, I was
because you're like free now. Now you're with your boy. A whole different thing.
My good friend, who is a straight-laced guy,
the right guy picked you up.
The right guy picked me up. Right, the right
guy. That's important.
The right guy, got out of work and drove me up there, and then he came and picked me up.
I love him already.
And yeah, he's solid. He's a solid dude. And he said, and I said, well, yeah, you got any alcohol? And I was like, well, there's a couple of Heineken in the fridge that I know I left, but I'm not going to drink them. He's like, why don't we go upstairs and I'll just throw them out for you. So we went upstairs, did that. I said, you good? I'm like, all right, okay. So walk down back stairs. I'm standing on the corner with a meeting booked to a particular 12-step fellowship. And I'm looking at it, and there's a meeting down the block on 21st Street in Manhattan.
Oh, man.
And I remember, and it was a Xerox of a meeting book, hard copy Xerox. Like, it was all kind of disheveled, stapled together with one staple, because they didn't have the literature. But
Yeah, because the guy took the money.
yeah, exactly, bro, exactly. And I remember saying to myself, well, I remember where I was standing. I was standing on Gramercy Park North, which is 21st Street, and Lexington Avenue on the corner by the Gramercy Hotel, which is now all, because of the pandemic, it's all shut down and stuff. Right there. And I said, am I going to try this AA shit? And I said it out loud like I didn't realize. I know somebody was walking by and heard me, and I was like, oh, somebody heard me. And I decided to go. And I just accidentally said it, but I went to that place. And I sat down in a very, what I've come to realize is a very significant building and a very significant group of people in recovery, in the history of recovery. That place is very significant. I didn't know that. I just walked in and I sat in the back, and at the end, I put up my hand. I don't know if it was burning desire or not, but I put up my hand. I was the last person to be called, and there was a guy who was chairing the meeting and another guy who was speaking, and I know them both now. And it was Philip. He called on me, and I said, my name's Roberto. I'm whatever. I just got out of rehab today, and I'm scared. And I was crying, bro. I was like so scared of going back to that misery, because I could taste it. And the good news is that I was allowed for some reason to receive, quote unquote, the love. I didn't shit on myself when I had the opportunity. I kind of let it happen, as hard as it was. To, like, people said, do this thing, real simple thing. I'm like, I don't want to do that thing. I don't want. Here's my number. Call me. Well, I don't want to call another guy for him. I'm a 36-year-old man. I'm not gay. Why am I going to be intimate with another man? And one guy said, here's my number. Here's my office number. He gave me his business card. It says, I'm never in the office after 6. I'm always, maybe twice in my life I've been in the office after 6. At 7 o'clock, after 7, call and just hang up on my machine. It was back in there when you had an answering machine. Just get into the habit of exercising the muscle of reaching out for help. And I did that. And then eventually I called somebody. And then eventually I took another suggestion, a simple thing. I said, why don't you try coming to this place, this other group, this other thing, this other fellowship. Try whatever it was. Simple suggestions that I was too good for, or I wasn't too good for. I was too scared. So scared. Scared of where I was coming from the pain and misery, but also fear of the unknown. Fear of, like, what does this all have to do? And then you're like, if you think about it, then you got fear of, like, letting go of the misery that you had and all that stuff, because
it's because it's the misery that you know.
It's like there's a domestic situation, daddy's beating the shit out of mommy, and there's a little boy there, and they come to lock up daddy, and what did the boy do? No, don't take daddy away, because that's the only source of love. Even though daddy's been beating him, don't matter. That's all we know, So I needed a lot of help. I got a lot of help, but I needed a lot of help, and they said, show up early, stay late, go to 90 meetings of whatever fellowship, and in 90 days, build a foundation, hang out with people, I hung out with people. I met you somewhere. I met our boy Angus somewhere, and it was fucking magic. It was just fucking magic, and I learned how to have how to sit in a diner with a bunch of people I didn't know who don't look like me, right? Like, why am I sitting here with you, trying to make small talk? I'm feeling uncomfortable, so withdrawn into myself.
Right, and the thing is that a lot of recovery happens in diners.
Absolutely.
Like a lot.
Absolutely.
But like it starts with small talk.
Yeah.
And then it evolves into something, and then somebody says something, and then we're all like, okay, this person needs help, or this person needs love. And the first part of love is when somebody says, yeah, me too.
Exactly.
And then it's like, okay, now we can stop talking about the cheeseburgers and the fries and whatever, this other thing. And then it doesn't mean that every diner is a therapy session, but it means that, like, you know, not only for me, that I found out that I belonged in those rooms, the diners was the first place I was like, oh, maybe I belong outside a little bit too.
Yeah.
And maybe I can, you know what I'm saying? And that's how that happens. With the come early, stay late. The come early is a big deal. People don't know.
So like the diner is like the bridge back to life.
Definitely.
You know, there's a guy in Brooklyn likes to say the meetings in the rooms are like the locker room, but we got to go out and play in the field.
That's right.
And the most important slogan in any room, besides the ones that you know the spiritual ones, is the exit sign over the door, because that's where we got to go practice this stuff that we talk about, and all the tools that we learn. That's where we got to go, you know, where the rubber meets the road. And it's true. It's true. So yeah, that's my story.
And it's been a long time.
Been 18 years.
Yeah. 18 and a half, it's got to be, no?
No, for me it's 18. You're a little bit more than me.
October, I'll be finishing 19.
God bless.
But it's the same thing, man. You start with these little like building blocks, these little like Legos, and I literally, you know, I can name maybe one or two other people that are not in recovery, maybe two, legit, 1.5. Like, you are legit one of my oldest and closest friends. And all of the guys that we came in with, like, that I've been this long friends with somebody that we haven't ruined it. Right. Either me or you. Right. Like, I never try to touch your girl. You never try to steal my money. Like, or vice versa. Right. Or like, yeah, where all of those other things are on the table when you're out there. Right. That you can't trust anybody. You can't love anybody. Like, it's all very surface. And that's like something that that I didn't know was going to happen for us, aside from us literally growing up together emotionally for the last like almost 20 years. But I just came there because I wanted the pain to stop, and I didn't have anywhere else I thought I could go. And thank God it was there and not freaking Scientology or some other shit that maybe that stuff works. But like, I landed, you know, you put your ass in a seat and the buck in the basket, and you don't even need you don't even need the buck.
Yeah, and you can stand if you want.
Oh, what does our brother say? He says, look, you want to come here, you got to drink the coffee. Come and grab it's in that pot. You come, you drink it every day.
And it's amazing you say that, because, like, you know, the fellowship, the people, the diner taught me how to, like, really understand how to get along and how to implement, like, these concepts that we talk about in the literatures and in the different meetings and the different programs that are out there. They teach you a lot of concepts, but, you know, you're talking to your dude about what he's going through with his girl, and you're like, oh yeah, he used that tool. You know, he used restraint of pen and tongue. Well, I didn't know anything about that. And you're just talking about, like, our relationship, and I didn't know I could have that kind of relationship. I didn't know that I wanted that kind of relationship. And I remember a time when you were going through a rough patch in a relationship, and it was like crazy, and there were garbage bags of what they call Irish luggage, garbage bags of clothes being thrown out, whatever. And I remember thinking, like, and there's no kudos to me, but I was thinking, how can I help this guy?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I didn't want anything from you. I just wanted to help you.
I know.
You know?
And it's like the thing where, and it's an evolution. Because like even when I first came, similar to you, when people were like, I wasn't holding anybody's hands, bro.
Yeah.
Because I got sober also at a noontime meeting in Manhattan where they held hands at the end. I ain't holding another man's hand, right? Because I was that insecure and that small that like, bro, I ain't holding no other. If there's a lady next to me and like, what? Okay, but I, that's how little it was, how little I was, and over time, bro, you realize that I didn't have what it took to be a man. I didn't have it.
Well said.
It wasn't inside me. The programs and you and everybody else and capital God, like all of these principles were given to me in recovery. Like my dad can give me suit up, show up, shut up, right?
Work hard. If you're not working hard enough, you're not getting what you want.
That's
so
it.
Work hard.
Yeah, like so he gives you like extreme ownership and blah blah blah. Right, but like
which are valuable tools.
Listen,
in the right circumstance, there's no doubt.
Look, but at the same time, like, learning how to even take that breath and just say, hey, listen, I'm not okay today. What's I'm mocha today? I'm mocus. But like learning the principles of integrity. And love is how you treat somebody else.
Yes, sir.
Learn to listen, like all of these things, and it's and I promise you, it's taken us this long to get this good. You guys are probably, if you're listening, like, oh, these guys sound like wizards. Yeah, because the most successful thing we've done this whole time is just not pick up.
Oh, I can illustrate for you that metaphorical brick wall that has a dent in it for all the times I ran into it head first in recovery. And just I could show you the scars on my, that have kind of healed and kind of not. But
you don't get better if you pick up.
You don't get better unless you fail.
Right.
And if you fail and you don't pick up, you will get better. I think.
I believe that because like you're not anesthetizing the lesson with something outside of yourself, like drugs or alcohol or whatever. You're just like, okay, listen, I just got turned upside down, and the some of my decisions and some of life just shook everything out of me. But I have somewhere to go where my people will patch me back up, and somebody who has been through that, not in theory, but has been through that, say, okay, I know what it's like. When somebody said to me, hey Jay, I know what it's like to not pay your taxes for 5 years and without drinking and drugging, and then showing up to the accountant like, oh, I'm sorry, I haven't paid my taxes in 5 years. Like, people in recovery help me do that.
Right.
Because I would have just let it keep going.
Same exact inference.
Right.
Instance. Same exact instance. Let me say like 2-3 things. Number one, I do believe in a God thing, and I keep it. When I talk about it, I say the God thing because it's very personal to me, right? And I do, for lack of a better way to put it, I do buy into this thing that it is God that runs the show. I have a faith tradition. I don't have a problem with. I'm as much of a Catholic as I can be, but that's not the extent of my spiritual path, right? So I do believe that this is a godly inspired program for people who have a particular thing, and it works in a very practical way, like how you walk down the block, how you talk to people, that whole thing, right? I think number two, one of the things you just reminded me is very important, something I learned from you, which is very important. When I fail, you have this saying that says, put the bat down, use the feather.
Yep.
Because self-abuse for me, just self-centeredness, it's just self-centeredness, but it was so big in my, like, I'm a piece of shit, man, I can't do this, I can't do anything right, and I'd go down this rabbit hole of, like, something wouldn't work out in my life, so spin, and that's all self-centeredness, man, self-deprecation, I try to catch myself when I use self-deprecating humor, because it's just a product of that kind of thinking. It doesn't help me.
Right.
And there was a third thing I don't effing remember. So whatever the case is, but, you know, I'm just a work in progress. You know, I made a lot of mistakes in sobriety. I hurt some people in sobriety. I take ownership of that. I'm trying not to do that anymore. You know, and thank God, you know, I've found a path, and I found people that I can talk to about what's going on. And, you know, I failed in sobriety, gotten the licks, you know, taken the knocks, and been able to say, and recently, you know, the past few years, I've been able to come to people and say, bro, I got this issue, and I hurt these people, and I don't want to do this anymore. And I gotta, you know, what do you know? And I've said that to people, and they've shared with me their experience. They've shared with me, like, maybe you want to check out this program or that program, or read this, or maybe talk to this guy, especially that.
Right.
I got a guy for you.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, call this guy up. And lucky enough that, you know, throughout my recovery now, and I've been around and got a little bit of experience, like, I'm the guy for certain issues that people know. Like my home group, I get a call, hey, this guy's got something that I know you have dealt with in the past, you know, whatever particular thing that is, you know.
It's so,
and
it's humbling, but
right.
It's a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
When I get those calls,
yeah.
When they'd be like, oh, my sponsor told me to call you.
Right.
Because they know it's like, because now we're like not the young kids in there. Now we're like a little bit of, I don't want to say we're the OGs, but we're like mid-grade, right?
Right.
Because I don't want to be an old man. But like I'll know some of these kids like peripherally.
We're like lieutenants. We're not soldiers anymore. We're not capos. But yeah.
Right. So, but
not that there is. I'm just being facetious.
I see them around and whatever. They got a handful of years or this or that, whatever. But I don't even know how they know how to find me. But their sponsors know how to find me.
Right.
Because their sponsors are in like the same pool we're in. They're like, oh, you need to call him because I don't have experience in this, but I know that he does.
Right.
And I know that
if a guy comes to me and he's like, gambling is part of his thing. He's been drinking and gambling and drugging, but he can't, and he's put down everything else but the gambling.
Right.
Right. And that's going to lead him back to like
Sure.
misery. I know, listen, I don't have that particular, I never did have that particular issue. I'm not a gambler, but I know a couple of guys who've dealt with that for years in and out of sobriety. Right. And maybe you want to talk to them.
Right. And they're willing.
And yes. And you would be helping. And that's the part they don't tell you. You're actually helping me by calling me. Right. I'm helping you by
they're like, I don't want to take a lot of your time. I know you're busy, Roberto. No. You'd be like, no, I have time.
I have time. I want to help.
Right. All right, guys, listen, we're going to wrap it up. Roberto, I love you.
I love you too, man.
And my brother.
I appreciate being here, and, you know, many more years to come.
You got it. We'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace.
Peace out.
Okay, everybody, we'd like to thank you for joining us on the Spiritual Experience. Please don't forget to like and subscribe on all podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google, Pandora, everywhere. And please find us on Facebook where you can become part of our family. We'll see you around.